It's Kyle here, and today I'll be reviewing Star Wars Mace Windu, The Glass Abyss by Stephen Barnes. So I'll be up front, this is my least favorite Star Wars book since Disney took over Star Wars. There's some cool ideas in this book, that there's elements of it I like, but overall I did not find the story entertaining. I was bored through large points of it, and at the end I didn't really get what the point of what the book was trying to accomplish. So I think first I'll touch on the elements of the book I like, and then I'll delve into why the book just did not work for me. Alright, so what did I like? The setting of the book was really cool. We're on probably 90% of the story takes place on this planet called Metagos, assuming I'm pronouncing that right. The environment of this planet is very interesting. Basically has an event with its star every, it's supposed to be 40, 50,000 years or something like that, where basically this event basically makes the surface of the planet no longer livable. So anybody that's on the planet, if they survive this event, has to go underneath the surface. And because this is a recurring event that happens, not super often, but it does happen throughout the planet's history, there's definitely an ecosystem that's kind of developed underneath the surface, and it's just kind of these very intricate crystal caves, very cool setting, the various ways life is adapted to live underneath the planet's surface is very fascinating, and how the more recent arrival, the people that are basically the refugees, this society they've built underneath the planet's surface is very interesting as well. So kind of the world building in this book is very interesting, and I found that maybe some of the strongest part of it. I'll delve a little bit into the complaint of a little bit of it. At some points it gets so focused on world building it forgets to move along the plot. At certain points it keeps on trying to explain in more and more detail certain elements of the world building. And I think at a certain point, even somebody like me who really loves world building in books, all right, I think we've got it. We're about 2/3 of the way through the book here. We need to focus a little bit more on the plot. But overall, the world building and the setting of this book was very, very cool. The main villain of this book, a character named Chulak, is very interesting. And basically we're introduced to this new species that basically is able to merge with another species. We're not really explaining all the details about that, but it's there has to be some sort of connection. And basically this species is merged with another one. So basically this villain has 2 heads, 4 arms, 4 legs, and basically by merging together, all their abilities become almost supercharged. And they're this amazing warrior. In fact, we see this character basically fighting normal individuals is a complete mismatch. And actually, when he fights Jedi, the Jedi are actually somewhat overwhelmed as well. It makes an amazing villain, very interesting. You can also tell in some ways this character is somewhat unhinged and crazy, which is not a bad thing in regard to villain. I think it can make your villain more interesting. In fact, I would say I would have liked a little bit more of this villain. There's certain parts of this book it drops out, but I think overall the villain of this storyline is one of the stronger points of it. The other thing I'll say that I like about this book, I think the concept is really cool. So the basic setup is, in the events after the Phantom Menace with Qui-Gon's die, a message is passed along to Mace Windu from Qui-Gon, that basically a message that Qui-Gon had recorded in case I die during the events of the Phantom Menace. There's this mission that I haven't got a chance to complete. I think you're the only Jedi that can really help complete this mission the way it needs to be. Please do this in honor of my memory, basically. Mace is kind of hesitant, but he was very close to Qui-Gon. He's I need to honor this last request, especially after he consults with Yoda, and he just decides let's complete this mission that Qui-Gon thinks so important that I need to drop everything and go address this. So I think that is a very cool setup. This mission that's so important that Qui-Gon was so concerned about with everything that's going on in the events in Phantom Menace. He takes the time to record a message hey, in case I don't make this, in case I die doing this, Mace, you need to solve this mission that I was not able to complete. So I think that was a really cool setup. I think there's a lot of potential in that idea. And I guess the last thing I'll mention, one other thing I want to give the author credit. I think the author was trying to try something new. I think you have to salute somebody like this. I don't want to write a standard Star Wars book. I want to try some different things here. The danger of when you do something like that, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In my opinion, this time it didn't work. But I will salute the author and decide I don't want to write by the number Star Wars book. I want to try some different stuff, really get unique with it, and let's see what works, and I'll salute him for trying something different. Now, what did not work for me? A lot. I think one thing after I read this book, I don't know if Mace is the type of character that can really support being the main character of the storyline, especially the main character where the entire storyline revolves around him. Basically, other than a little bit we get at the beginning of the Jedi Temple, all the characters are new other than Mace Windu, and Mace is clearly the main focus point of the storyline. The entire plot revolves around him, so you're not really getting like, it's not like some other Star Wars books where there's multiple Jedi running around or other heroes or villains that are kind of co-main characters. This book is Mace Windu's story. I think there's a lot of characters, not just in Star Wars, other franchises as well. Some characters can make amazing main characters. Some characters are just secondary characters, and when you move them up to the main character storyline, they're not quite there. They're not well developed enough. There's something lacking that makes them interesting enough to be the main character. I think after reading this book, I'm just not sure if Mace Windu is, the way this character's been set up, is a good main character. I think he's a great secondary character. Or if you have a book where like there's 7 or 8 Jedi and they're all kind of co-leads of the storyline, I think Mace could do good at that. I think you see elements in the Clone Wars, the animated series, where Mace is kind of a co-lead character, and those episodes can be really good. I think this book is like, with Mace's personality, I just don't know if he's the best Jedi to center a story around. So I think the story suffers somewhat because Mace is having to carry it, and Mace just does not have the personality and characteristics to really make the storyline interesting when this is really a character study book. You're really examining what Mace Windu ticks and internal issues he's dealing with, and with some other Jedi, it might have been an amazing way to explore them. With Mace, he wasn't able to really carry this storyline. Another thing I did not like about this book was a big part of the storyline. And we find out later, and I won't really spoil it, but throughout the book, Mace is getting he can't sleep, and it's partly because anytime he tries to sleep, he's having these horrendous dreams that are torturing him, and basically instantly wakes up. He cannot get any sound sleep. But these dreams are clearly trying to explain stuff about him. It's delving into his past, mainly about how he came to Jedi Order. He's tortured by these thoughts that his parents just abandoned him. Did the Jedi kill his parents to steal him from his family? It's just all these like worst case scenarios of how he became into the Jedi Order, and these dreams are just torturing him. 1 or 2 dreams are okay. I lost count. There must have been 7, 8, 9, 10 dream sequences throughout this book that are really delving into Mace and what makes him tick and exploring his psychosis, basically. At a certain point, and I'd never do this in Star Wars, like I'd get to a dream sequence, it's like I just could not read another dream sequence, and I would just flip through until I saw the end of the dream sequence. Because that's the thing, these dream sequences were not short. It wasn't like a paragraph or 2. They'd be like, several pages. So I think the dream sequences needed to be cut way down. There were just way too many, and I didn't really feel like they were unveiling any new information. It's almost going over the same thing over and over again, So I was skipping a lot of pages. I, kind of just browse the paragraphs. Like, do I see any keywords I need to read this paragraph? No, dream. Oh, the dream's finally over. I can start reading again. So the dream sequences really bogged the story down a lot, in my opinion. I like the fact, like I said, the setting's really cool, but the fact it's very cut off from the rest of the universe. We're only on this one planet, other than the beginning of the book and the very end. That in some ways it makes it feel like not quite a Star Wars book. There's elements of the book that feels almost more like a detective mystery, like where Mace is really trying to solve this mystery on this planet of this conspiracy that's going on and who's involved and how he can help bring peace to this situation. We basically have this very valuable silk product that's farmed on this planet, and you basically have various criminal organizations fighting to control it, and the people that, not the innocents, caught in the middle kind of thing. And so Mace is trying to solve this. The last thing I'll touch on that to me really took down my enjoyment of the storyline is like the huge point of this book is like how the events of this planet are changing Mace for the better. And it's kind of implied that Qui-Gon felt like this was a mission Mace needed to do, and it would make him a stronger, better Jedi and improve his personality, just all this type of stuff. It'd be good for Mace to do this mission. And at the end of the book, we're saying that Mace is this completely new Jedi. He's approaching the Force, the Jedi Order, the galaxy at large. He has a different attitude because of this mission. But if you watch The Phantom Menace and then you watch episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and then, we get into episode 3, we don't really see any major character development. Mace is basically the same character. When we see him in episode 2, he's the same Jedi we saw in episode 1. And this book is set between episode 1 and 2, so it's like, all right, this book is basically saying like, the events of this book completely changed who Mace is. But then, in reality, we know, like, when we see him in Mace episode 2, Mace is the exact same Jedi we saw him. So I don't know why you would set a book between those two. And the entire point of the book is like, the events of this book completely change who Mace is. But then when we see Mace in episode 2, he's the exact same Jedi we saw in episode 1. So I think in some ways this book might have been better if it was set before the events of Phantom Menace, and maybe just get rid of the Qui-Gon death and maybe have, Qui-Gon can't go on this mission. Mace, can you please do this for him instead? Something like that. Because it just felt like, all right, you're trying to tell me Mace has completely changed, but we know this is not what happened because we see Mace again in episode 2. So that part of the focus of the storyline just completely lost me. So overall, those are some of the reasons why I did not like this book. So overall, like, this is a standalone book. It doesn't really connect with any other Star Wars book series. So you don't feel like if you're reading something else, like, do I have to read this so I don't miss something? No, you do not. The one reason I would say you might want to read this, if you're just a Mace superfan, if you just love Mace, check this out. Maybe you will connect to the storyline more than I did. Because I'm not a big super Mace fan. I've always kind of liked him, didn't dislike him, but he was never one of my favorite Jedi as well. So maybe that was part of my hang up with the storyline. Maybe if you love Mace, this will be your favorite Star Wars book of ever. Or at least you'll find it very interesting. So, but unless you're a Mace super fan, I just don't know if this book is really worth reading. And I hate to say that because this is really the first Star Wars Disney book that I just did not connect with at all. So that's our review for Star Wars Mace Windu, The Glass Abyss by Stephen Barnes. Let me know in the comment section below, what is a Jedi from the prequel era that you would love to see a standalone book written about? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this review, please hit the like button. If you have yet, please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate the support. Thanks for watching. I'll see you the next time, and may the Force be with you.